When self-proclaimed rock star wannabe Chris asked me if I wanted to take a shot at mixing his song, it was kind of a no-brainer. I had heard the original, and there's a ton of potential there. So to get the opportunity to rip that thing apart and put it back together even bigger and bolder than it had been originally, yeah, let's do that. I'll leave a link in the description to the original demo. And stick around to the end, I'll show you a trick I used to make one guitar take sound like at least 3 guitar takes. Alright, let's go. Alright, so first things first, let's take a listen to the original track, just a little section of it here, and we'll kind of talk about what's going on. Alright, so there's a few things we notice here. First of all, everything is right in the middle. There's one guitar part right in the middle, the drums are all right in the middle, the vocal is all right in the middle. Everything is very dry, there's no reverb or delay or anything like that on anything. It's just kind of put in there, the volumes are leveled out and balanced. The vocal's a little hot, so it's a little bit karaoke sounding. But all in all, it's there's a lot of potential there. It's a cool track. So let's see what we can do with it. Just to give a little context here, we'll just play back a little bit of it here. This is a little bit of my mix. And if you stick around to the end, I'll play it all the way through and you can listen to it. Let's go quickly through what we did. So first of all, the drums, they came in, they're all separated out nicely, kick, snare, toms, and a million different cymbal tracks. These are obviously from an electronic kit. It sounds like a real player playing an electronic kit like a Roland or F-Note or something like that. The sounds are great. They're pre-processed, which means there's not a lot I can do with them. They already have compression and EQ on them. I touched them a little bit, and on the drum bus here, you can see there's, I think we put some saturation on it. Yeah, a little saturation and compression on the drum bus itself, just to kind of glue the sounds together, and they sound pretty good the way they are. Then we can take a look at the bass guitar, and this was a good sounding track. I think it was played by the same person who played the drums. Maybe Chris can correct me if I'm wrong there. But if we take a look at what's going on here, we've got this preset from Mixbox. And if you're not familiar with Mixbox, it's from IK Multimedia. It's not very expensive, and it's like a 500 series rack with all these great effects and presets. You should definitely check it out. But the main factor here is this overscream, which is like a tube screamer style thing. So you can hear a little bit of grit in there that kind of goes along with the guitar part. And then there's a little bit of EQ, just to pull out some of that boxy mid-range that was coming through a little bit. So that's about all we did with the bass. The guitars, so Chris did one take with his guitar, which is commendable, to be honest, to get all the way through that whole thing in one take. But it was obviously not a stereo track, not double-tracked guitars. There's a little bit of a trick I used. I'll talk about that at the end of the video, so stick around. And you can see that instead of one guitar, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all a little bit different. You see these two bottom ones, these are the rhythm guitar track, panned hard left and right. That gives us that big, massive guitar sound that we're looking for. We've got one right here called Guitar Spread, and this one just has this plugin, this free plugin from Polyverse called Wider, and it just takes a single mono track and spreads it out a little bit in the stereo image. You have to be really careful with this plugin because it sounds pretty awful if you get it wrong or if you overdo it, or sometimes the specific instrument, it just doesn't work. So, use that one sparingly. The guitar solo has this bus here is going to a stereo delay. This is actually a built-in Logic plugin. It sounds great in my opinion and works really well for this track. Guitar center is just centered, and it's basically the same as the solo track, but just with a slightly lower volume. It was easier to cut it up and do it that way rather than automating things. And then overall on the electric, we've got some pretty heavy-handed EQ. The tone that Chris chose to use for this track was pretty narrow and didn't fill out the track very well. So I pulled in a whole lot more, pulled back in a lot of the low end on this curve here, and then a little bit in the 2200, 2300 range here to just bring back some of the definition of the sound as well. Instead of being this little kind of mid-range hunk in the middle of the mix, it's got a little more width to it. It's actually a lot flatter this way. So we fill up and fill that space between the bass and the guitars a little better. So that's what we've got going on there. And if we go to the vocals, things get pretty fun here. It was a single vocal take, again, all the way through, and I cut it into 3 different parts. We've got the verses here doing... And the vocal was recorded pretty hot. It was clipping a little bit, and that's okay though, because we just kind of leaned into that. You'll notice we've got a little bit of EQ here doing some stuff, a noise gate to take out some of the hiss that showed up whenever we pulled in some higher range frequencies. And then, again, Mixbox. I love Mixbox, and it's great on, I have actually an old Intel MacBook Pro that I'm working on that it doesn't even get some of the new Logic Pro features, but Mixbox runs phenomenally well on here. So this is a lot of fun. Our studio computer is a much more powerful machine, but here at home, this is the one I use. You'll notice here we've got a channel strip, and we've got some pulling in some air frequencies here down at the bottom. And then pushing to the end of this channel strip, there's this saturator, and if I play this back, you can see it's leaning into the saturator pretty heavily. Kind of, digging into that grit. Saturation is also one of my favorite things. And then this talking vocal part where he's kind of I should go. And the EQ on this one is all done in the channel strip here. You've got basically this graphic EQ here is doing most of that. And then we didn't really put saturation on this one, but we put this channel strip at the end, again pulling in a bunch of the air frequency to give some definition. But then we also, in order to keep that from being ridiculous when he pronounces his S's, we've got this heavy de-esser here. And then I'm also using this dynamic EQ here over at the, you can see the 7.7 kilohertz band to keep the S's out here. I should know. So, yeah, that's what we got going on there. And then there's this outro part. Chris didn't sing this exact part. This is actually in Flex Pitch, which is Logic's built-in pitch correction and timing correction software. I took it up a fifth, and so it's actually a fifth above where he sang this part in the verse here at the end. And then we put a lot of saturation and some delay on it to spread it and make it move around a lot and give us some ear candy there. And it just, the song felt like it needed that at the end. So, yeah, that's kind of what we did there. And then I want to show you a little bit of a trick with the guitars, where these rhythm guitar parts are, how we get it so big. You'll notice if we zoom in on these waveforms here, let's just take a look at this. So this top one here represents the single take that Chris did. But if you look at these notches, you can kind of see it. Let's blow it up a little bit more. See, right here looks exactly like this right here, and this here looks exactly like this right here. So we take sections that he played and chop it up. If he played the same thing twice, we just take the second one and match it up with the first one next to each other, panned hard left and right. And then we take the first one and match it up with the second one, left and right. So that gives us a stereo guitar track, a double-tracked guitar from the same take. And we kind of, I sort of selectively chose what parts were going to be rhythm left and right like that, and which parts kind of got the focus in the center. If there was no vocal, you need something to focus on, so we take that guitar and kind of make it a lead part. And then of course the solo stays in the middle. So yeah, that's what we've got. And it's been a lot of fun. And Chris, thanks for letting me mix your song, and I hope you like it. And I'll send you out with a version of this song. All right, before we start this playback, go check out Chris's channel. Go download the tracks and give him a mix. It's a lot of fun. Doesn't matter what kind of computer you have, you can make it work. If you want to load them into GarageBand and make it work that way, or Reaper or Audacity or any kind of DAW, just go give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And I'll put a link in the description down to his original track on SoundCloud. Check that out too. All right, here we go.